Now it's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation.
What are you people? On dope?
Or you can toke.
I inhaled it frequently.
Or you can talk.
I experimented with marijuana and didn't inhale.
Or you can toke and talk.
10 federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
While we talk about toke on Toker Talk Radio.
So, by the way, when it comes to pot, if you're 40 years old, you live in a log cabin in Oregon, you got 12 giant pot plants in your backyard, have a ball.
Live from beautiful Portland, Oregon at Rolla J Studios.
Hey, this is great. Just not cannabis.
Plus your calls live at 971-533-7111.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to the Enema Man and Snoopy Poop Dog.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel? Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
Holland, is it real? Don't tease me.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years.
And now, here's your host, the guru of ganja graphics, the sultan of sativa statistics, and the worst nightmare of a reefer mad prohibitionist. A polite, perspicacious, productive pothead with a propensity for PowerPoint. Radical, Russ Belville.
Nice beaver.
Thank you. I just had it stuffed.
Let me help you with that.
Yes, let me help you indeed. Welcome. It's Toker Talk Radio. You can toke, you can talk, you can toke or toke and talk while we talk about toke. That's what we do on Toker Talk Radio. Glad to see the folks in the chat room hanging out. If you haven't gotten in to the Toker Talk Radio and the 420 Radio chat room, you need to do it. Make some friends today from all around the country and all around the world. Really easy address to get there. Go to rad-r.us/420 chat room. rad-r.us/420 chat room. That's all in lowercase, by the way. So welcome to Toker Talk Radio. The phone lines are open at 971-533-7111. If you have a comment, question, suggestion, rant, or topic, just let me know. The phones are open for you. This is the voice of the marijuana nation. And I've got a few things. I noticed up in the chat room as I was scrolling through a comment about the 90% of men who use Viagra recreationally. This is a good point that needs to be made in drug debates, especially when they start talking about medical marijuana and, there's only 3% are getting it for AIDS or cancer, whatever. 94% are getting it for pain. They're using it recreationally. Really? So do you know the statistics on how many men actually have erectile dysfunction to the point where they actually medically need Viagra, Levitra, or Cialis? It's a very low figure, folks. And it's mostly men over the age of 40. And it's like a single digit percentage. I don't know the exact stat. I looked this up once, long ago, but it's a low figure. And most of the erectile dysfunction that men suffer in middle age and older has mostly to do with diet, exercise, lifestyle choices, smoking, all sorts of things that are easily curable without the use of Viagra, Cialis, or Levitra. But do you know what the average stats are on the users of Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra? It's mostly young men, 20s and 30s, with good health and no history of real erectile dysfunction. So obviously people are using this medical drug for recreational purposes. And yet, nobody wants to try to restrict this Viagra. Nobody seems to want to make sure that we're having, bona fide patient-physician relationships to make sure that the weenie really doesn't work. I wonder what the appointment is like for that anyway. Nobody seems to be too concerned that 90% of the people that use Viagra use it recreationally. And nobody seems to want to restrict the 10% that are using it medically from being able to get it. We seem to, as a society, accept that, look, Some guys have a medical problem and this drug helps it, but other guys don't have a medical problem and they use it anyway and we're cool with it. That seems to be our attitude in this country. Seems to be the attitude when you look at all the commercials that are on TV about it too. You know, we always hear with medical marijuana, oh my God, we don't want to legalize marijuana. My God, they'll advertise it. They'll put out ads. People will think it's okay to use. Count the number of Viagra, Cialis, or Levitra ads you see, particularly on NFL Sunday broadcasts. And tell me again how we're worried about advertising marijuana. I always love those ads too. First of all, you should notice the Viagra ad. Always notice how Viagra ads are shot with a blue filter. Now, I have a theory on this. You know, one of the signs of adverse reaction to Viagra or Viagra overdose is blue vision. Like it does something to the cones and rods and all that shit in your eyes, and it actually tints your vision blue. So maybe they make those Viagra commercials in blue filter so that when you get the overdose, you don't know that anything bad's happening. Maybe. And here's another interesting thing about the boner pills. Do you know what the scientific name is for Cialis? Right? That's the brand name, Cialis, which in itself is kind of a funny name, right? Got problems with your erection? Cialis, right? But no, the scientific name for Cialis is tadalafil. That's right, folks. Tadalafil. Ta-da! Looky there. Oh, my goodness. So, yeah, anytime people... And so the Viagra thing, it might be a useful rhetorical ploy when we're dealing with talk about medical marijuana, because just like Viagra has a medical purpose for some people who seriously need it, so does cannabis have a medical purpose for some people that seriously need it. And yet, just like Viagra, most of the people using it are using it recreationally, and a lot of them are getting their recreational supply by lying about a medical condition they don't have. But nobody seems too concerned about that, do they? Hey, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we got a call coming in on the flux capacitor.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Hey, Tokers and Tokettes, Radical Russ here to introduce you to my friend Matt and all the staff at Lush LED Lighting. Growing plants indoors can be a rewarding hobby, but electricity bills can go through the roof. Then you have to cool down all those big hot lights. It can drive a grower insane. With Lush LED Lighting, you can solve many of these issues and double your rewards. If you thought LEDs were meet the tech of today, Matt and his scientists have developed the perfect light for flowering plants with far less cost and heat. And the results? Let's just say I appear at a lot of events with the masters of indoor horticulture, and the harvests I saw from Lush LED Lighting were big, tight, sticky, and very effective. Check out LushLEDlighting.com right now and tell them Radical Russ sent you. Double your rewards and lower your expenses with Lush LED Lighting. I'm Radical Russ Belville, and I want to thank you for listening to 420 Radio. We couldn't survive without you and our sponsors, and I'd like you to check out one of our prime sponsors, the National Cannabis Coalition. I've been working with NCC since June of 2012, and I'm proud to be part of the team they have assembled. National Cannabis Coalition is building the partnerships with reformers, lawmakers, and industry we need to be successful. Visit the National Cannabis Coalition website at nationalcannabiscoalition.com or the easier-to-remember ncc420.com. That's where you'll get the exclusive first look at my radical rants, as well as informative articles from the nation's top cannabis pundits. Visit ncc420.com today, and if you have your phone handy, text RUSS to 420-420 to support NCC and 420 Radio. It's a free text message that helps us help you end adult marijuana prohibition. Learn more at ncc420.com, and thanks for supporting.
Hello everybody, this is Canna Bob with another video edition of The Roots.
Prohibition Stories. As a public service, the Russ Belville Show reminds you that smoking marijuana does not make one stupid. However, some stupid people do smoke marijuana, and Prohibition is always waiting for another victim. Learn your lesson from today's Stupid Prohibition Stories.
With your stupid Prohibition stories, I'm old-timey 1920s radio reporter Freddie Farrak. Wrong number. Man accidentally texted cop to sell marijuana from NewJersey.com. Police say a Sussex man accidentally texted an Andover Township police lieutenant to set up a drug sale late last week, and messaging that very, very wrong number led to the man's arrest. Andover Lieutenant Eric Danielson had recently purchased a new cell phone with a new cell number, according to Sparta Police. And on Friday, he got a text from someone, later identified as 33-year-old Nicholas DeLear Jr., saying he had a quarter pound of marijuana for sale, according to police. So they set up a meeting at a pizzeria in Sparta. But DeLear became suspicious and attempted to flee, police said. He was stopped by a marked Sparta police vehicle a short time later. Danielson, the lieutenant with the lucky number, arrived on the scene and matched the text on his phone with DeLear's cell phone number. Officers found a white plastic bag with a large freezer bag in a rear compartment behind the driver's seat. Inside were 4 smaller bags with more than an ounce of marijuana, 11 smaller bags, a digital pocket scale, and $620 in cash. DeLear was placed under arrest and transported to Sparta Police Headquarters, where he was charged with possession with intent to distribute marijuana, possession of drug paraphernalia, possession of a controlled dangerous substance in a motor vehicle, and several motor vehicle infractions, police said. I'm Freddie Farrak with your stupid Prohibition Stories! Oh, man. I feel bad for the guy. That's terrible. Just happened. The number was probably the right number. It's just the guy he used to text no longer has the number. That's what happened. Oh, I was going to go to the phone just now, and it just dropped off. I didn't realize I have this much time in the segment. So if you want to call back, Medigro, you go ahead and call us back. We'll get you on the line and talk about what's happening in Vermont. In fact, I'll call your phone right now. We'll just see if we can get you directly. And encourage you all, if you are in a state and you want to be a correspondent for 420 Radio, you want to call in from time to time, give us the rundown on what's going on in your state. We really appreciate it because, we want to get the point of view from the entire marijuana nation. And joining us now from the great state of Vermont, we got Medigro, Vermont on the line. How you doing?
Good, Russ. How you doing? It was great to have you out here on the East Coast and see you in Boston.
Oh, it was a lot of fun doing the Freedom Rally, and you took some really great photographs.
Thanks. Well, I just was a great opportunity to meet a lot of people, and got to meet Lively Libra and Sharon, of course, from Georgia, and that was fantastic.
All right. So what can you tell us about what's happening up there in Vermont?
Well, we actually have something really nice to report. I, as you know, was robbed of my cannabis crop last year. And initially, my insurance company refused to pay me. And as of today, I have cut a deal with the insurance company. Because of the state of Vermont stepping in, I couldn't afford to hire a lawyer to sue. And the state of Vermont Consumer Protection Division stepped in, and the case evidently went all the way up to the commissioner in the state of Vermont. So I'm just calling in to let every patient out there who's insured know that your insurance company is now not allowed to refuse to pay for your insurance policy. They cannot make an excuse that public policy does not allow them to pay. The insurance commissioner in the state of Vermont has made a ruling on this on my case, and I guess it affects. I was told it sets precedent, and it does affect other individuals. There you go.
Wow, that is fantastic news. So you getting ripped off by rippers. You're covered by what, like homeowners insurance, renters insurance, health insurance? What is it?
Yeah, well, no, it's homeowners insurance, and at the time I had never had a claim before previously with my company. And so what happened was I didn't even know I was covered for my trees indoors as well as outdoors on a what's known as a platinum endorsement.
Wow.
All right. So, Vermonters out there, if you're a medical marijuana patient, make sure that you know about this and that you can use your insurance to get recovery if you ever get ripped off. That's great news, man. That's fantastic.
Yeah, we'll be forwarding the information to the head of the program. I was recommended I do so. And again, it's the insurance commissioner's ruling. It went all the way to the commissioner. I understand there were a number of meetings on it, so it's pretty solid.
Now, this insurance company, I guess this is from the state insurance board or commission, so it affects any insurance company, right?
It affects any insurance company that insures you in the state of Vermont. The ruling was based on the fact that my insurance did cover the plants, and the initial refusal by the insurance company was based on federal law not allowing them to pay for the cannabis.
Gotcha.
I think this was affected by the holders backing down off the West Coast situation.
Yeah, I would think so. Now, I wonder, when they make the estimates to repay you, do you get to use that $2,000 a plant that the DEA always uses on their seizure counts?
Actually, Russ, no, I did not get to use $2,000 a plant. That would have been $1,000 an ounce, and I think that was probably unreasonable. At the time that the initial complaint was made to the insurance company after the theft, and got Keith Strop on the phone and a couple of lawyers from Colorado talking to the insurance company, and my two senior plants were actually paid for at $1,000 a plant. My junior plants at $100 a plant.
But if the DEA had seized all that, it'd have been $2,000 a plant.
Well, then I'll go to them and ask them for the balance. Okay?
Yeah, somebody owes you, man. Somebody owes you. This is great news.
No, I'm just really happy. The amount didn't matter to me, to be honest with you. We did catch the insurance company trying to skate on the total amount, and they had to adjust it. But the amount didn't matter to me. What matters to me is that we've done this for patients. We've gotten this so that other patients don't have to go through the year of hard work that I did to get this far.
Well, Speed Limit in the chat room kind of brings that up, wondering if you got a citation for that from the insurance board. And I'll let you guys work that out in chat room. And maybe we could put a post together of this. I could write it up for High Times Magazine. And
absolutely. I can tell you straight up that I'm no longer with that insurance company.
All right. Well, I'll be back in touch with you, and I will write this up for the High Times online at least, and maybe we can get it in the magazine as well, because this is something, like you say, I think the people in the other 19 medical marijuana states now have a better case. They can say, hey, well, look, here's a citation from the insurance board in Michigan or in Vermont, and
right.
We'll see how that works.
Yeah, well, it's definitely solid in Vermont. The commission, went all the way to the commissioner. The commissioner made the decision.
Hey, can you tell us who the insurance company was?
Well, I don't know whether you live on Main Street or whether you know a group that might be called America.
Ah, okay. There we go. Well, that's great news and great precedent there for the people in the state of Vermont. We hope we can make that stand in the other states. And I'd be interested to see in Washington and Colorado as well. Once, now that, especially in, Colorado where you can grow plants, whether people would be able to make insurance cases, just as recreational users.
Well, the lady from the insurance commissioner, the administrator from the insurance commissioner's office here in Vermont, the Consumer Protection Division, and I were discussing it, and we basically think that insurance companies will start to basically write policies that exclude this, and you'll probably have to get a writer in the future.
Yeah, we're kind of catching them in that loophole period where they're not aware, the laws have changed faster than their policies have.
I'm sure they're writing very quickly, Russ.
I'm sure they're writing quickly. Well, thank you so much, Medigrow, for calling in, and thanks for your work there at Boston Freedom Rally, getting some of those great pictures, and I'll see you next time on the East Coast.
My pleasure, Russ. Take care now.
All right. And that's what we're all about here at 420 Radio. If you've got a local story, a local angle that people around the country need to know about, give us a call here at 971-533-7111, and we will make your voice heard. And if we got enough of a story, we'll even put it in High Times or Alternate. Just to let you know, by the way, I've got a couple of new articles up, one up on Alternate today, another one up on High Times today. And I've got an article coming out in the High Times magazine over the next 3 issues. Each issue, that I have the news lead in that, so very, very excited about the work there, and with National Cannabis Coalition. So we hope you all get involved. Check out my stuff. I usually tweet it out through my Radical Russ Twitter account or Radical Russ on Facebook. All right, folks, that clock right there in the bottom left corner tells us it's 4:20 Pacific time. That means millions of tokers all up and down the West Coast are celebrating. We hope you can celebrate with us. We'll be right back with a story on your medical records privacy or lack thereof.
Have you ever met
Listen to Toker Talk Radio.
If he said he swam to China, he would sell you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. Please do not give up your precious liberties. There's nothing wrong with standing up for our constitutional rights, and in fact, it's the only way to honor the Constitution that recognizes our natural rights. Treat law enforcement with respect and respect the Constitution by standing up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, stand up for your rights by repeating, "I respectfully invoke all my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search and seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to speak to my attorney, Omar Figueroa." Omar Figueroa has more than a decade of experience in federal and California courts and graduated from Yale University, Stanford Law School, and Trial Lawyers College. Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707-829-0215 or on the web at www.omarfigueroa.com. You know Herb Thrasher from the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour. Now get ready for Herb Age Designs for the proud cannabis consumer. Herb Age Designs, lifestyle gear for the 420 friendly. Herb Age Designs, home of the famous lighter leash. Herb Age Designs, get your Herb Age t-shirts and hoodies and show your pride. Herb Age Designs, we've got frisbee golf discs and durable hemp gear. Herb Age Designs, we've got shot glasses, drinking glasses, coffee mugs, and beer cozies. Check us out on Facebook and online at herbagedesigns.com. And follow Herb Age and Herb Thrasher on Twitter. We'll see you at this year's Hemp Fest. Crank it up. The Russ Belville Show airs live at 3 p.m. Monday through Friday, but if you missed any of those live shows, you can catch the replays on the weekends, on Saturdays starting at 3 p.m., and on Sundays starting at 9 a.m., all 5 hours back-to-back on the weekends at 420radio.org. Check out 420radio.org/schedule for more information.
I've always joked that the Milk and Oreo people are behind the legalized marijuana.
Well, pot's not a drug. It's just a leaf. The magazine quotes Schwarzenegger as saying, that is not a drug, it's a leaf.
It's a useful drug in some patients, not by any means in every patient. And I think, as such, it should be available. The doctor shouldn't go to jail for prescribing it.
It's been a long time coming. Change has come to America.
Welcome back, everybody. 23 after the hour. You're listening to Toker Talk Radio here on 420radio.org. If you missed any of the beginning of Toker Talk Radio, you can catch the replays at 7 o'clock right here, exclusively on 420radio.org. And I want to get into this next story. You know, I reported previously on, first we were shocked when we found out that the DEA was getting all this secret information from the National Security Agency, using its Patriot Act powers, or should I call it the Unpatriotic Act powers, to surveil Americans, presumably under the guise of protecting us from the terrorists. The terrorists are out there. Terrorists are going to get us. So to protect us from the terrorists, pass the Patriotic Act. And we found over time that of all the sneak and peek warrants and all these Unpatriotic Act powers that were used, the vast majority of the time it was for drug cases. There's something I remember some chart, it was 1,500 taps for, or searches or whatever it was for drug cases and something like 15 for terrorism cases, right? It was just ridiculous, the disparity. So we were shocked to find out that the DEA was getting this, terrorism surveillance information from the NSA and then using a technique called parallel construction. I like to call it evidence laundering, is basically what they were doing. the DEA would get this information from NSA and from all the secret, anti-terrorism surveillance gathering powers. And then they would deliver it to local cops, state cops, county cops. And then the county cops would make the drug bust, but they wouldn't make the drug bust based on the DEA's tip. They would use parallel construction to come up with a different, legitimate reason to make the stop. As a fictional example, like, say the DEA from the NSA gets some information that there's a big shipment of marijuana coming up in a semi-truck, let's say. So the DEA's got this tip, and it gives the tip to the Iowa State Police that, coming into Dubuque at a certain rest stop, there's going to be this semi, and it's going to have a bunch of weed in it, right? Then what the Dubuque cops would be told by the DEA was to not mention in any of their reports that the DEA ever got in touch with them, to not mention anywhere along the investigation or to any of the prosecutors or to anybody else involved that the DEA ever contacted them, but instead to come up with a different reason to pull over the semi-truck. That was the parallel construction. So they would tail the semi-truck until it didn't blink long enough in a lane or, improperly weaved from one side. Any of the bullshit reasons they can concoct on the road to pull you over. So when they'd put their reports together, it would be, well, gosh, we just happened to be driving along and just happened to see this semi that just happened to weave outside of its lane, and we pulled it over, and what do you know? It had 3 tons of marijuana in it. And that would be the official story that would get entered in court and in testimony and in all of the investigation and what they call discovery in a trial, where both the prosecution and the defense are able to get a look at all the same evidence. Anything that might exonerate a client is shown. Anything that might convict a client is shown. Everybody gets to play on the same level playing field. That's the way our justice system works. Supposed to work. But when they'd come forth with these cases of the guy in Dubuque with the semi-truck and the 3 tons of weed, there's no way for the defense lawyer to ever know that the whole reason his client was looked at was because of a tip from the DEA. And the reason that's important is because if the defense attorney knew that, he could go back and find out, well, who was the DEA informant? Who was the person who gave him the tip? How did they get that information? Did they get that information from extra constitutional means? Did they violate my client's rights? The defense attorney can't find any of that shit out because parallel construction. As far as the defense attorney knows, it was just the Dubuque cops pulling over a truck for a busted taillight or whatever the hell. So we were all shocked about that. Remember how shocking that was? Seems quaint when you get to the next story, which is the story where we found out about the Hemisphere program, where the DEA was given direct access to all of the billions and billions of daily phone records processed by AT&T, not just for their own customers, but for any customer of any phone company that ever had to go through an AT&T switch, tower, line, router, whatever. Literally trillions and trillions of records dating all the way back to 1987 in some cases. Now, even under the Unpatriotic Act, the NSA only can collect this phone data, this metadata, for 5 years. But through this Hemisphere program, DEA was able to work with AT&T to get back records going all the way to 1987. And it wasn't just working with the DEA, it was literally working in the DEA. The government paid the salaries of 4 AT&T employees to sit at desks in the DEA headquarters in Houston, Los Angeles, and Atlanta. And we were all shocked about that. Oh my God. Oh my God. People that I was calling back in college, they can pull the records up on that. Wow. We were all shocked about that. But now, get this story out of Vice.com. And by the way, Bill Maher's production company puts Vice together, and it's just an amazing new outlet. I recommend you all check it out at Vice.com. This one is from a lawsuit that's happening between the DEA, the state of Oregon, and the American Civil Liberties Union. And according to Vice, It hinges on the fact that drug warriors believe they should have easy access to the Oregon Prescription Drug Monitoring Program database. And they've been acting on that belief even though it contradicts state law. In plain English, the DEA says that if your medical records are shared with a pharmacy, something that happens routinely thanks to the Prescription Drug Monitoring Program, you lose the right to assume that the information is private, even if the lawmakers in your own state disagree. Wow. Now, what this is all hinging on, from the DEA's point of view, they got the legal argument, it hinges on something called third-party doctrine. Now, we've got a Fourth Amendment against unreasonable search and seizure, right? And so if I have data, or if I have records, or if I have information, then I'm protected from the government finding that shit out. And then there's also my confidentiality with my doctor, right? I could talk to my doctor. It's confidential. Under very extreme circumstances, the doctor can reveal what's going on. But generally, that privacy is protected under law as well. But this third-party doctrine is this idea that, well, once you released your information to a third party, you gave up your privacy rights. You said, well, here, I'm sharing, and this is open for everyone. And they've been using this to try to look at our, well, not to try, to look at our credit card charges, our utility bills, our emails, all that kind of stuff. By the way, if you think your email's private, it's really not. Learn a little bit about that. There's an interesting law that has to do with the fact that up until something like 6 months, 180 days, that your emails are private, but after 180 days, they are searchable. We'll do another rant on that someday. We'll have to, that'll take another time and some more research, but that's a scary thing to know. But anyway, this lawsuit, Prescription Drug Monitoring Program in the state of Oregon, ACLU argued that the third-party doctrine doesn't apply to medical records and that the information in the Oregon database is deeply private. Well, duh. First of all, this idea that medical records could not be private in any scenario blows your mind, doesn't it? Deeply private, yeah. It includes the patient's name, the patient's address, the patient's date of birth, pharmacy and prescriber information, and specific prescription information, including the names of all drugs, how much dosage you were prescribed, when it was prescribed, and when it was dispensed. And that's for any drug on the controlled substances list, which, you know, is going to include your oxycodones and your Xanaxes and your Ambiens and things like that. How is that not the most private freaking information a person would want to keep private from the government? Or anybody, for, you know, an employer or even a potential mate, you might not want to know what drugs you're taking, what medical conditions you've got. But as far as the DEA is concerned, nope. Once you shared that information with the pharmacy, see, you were spreading your information out, and you have no reasonable expectation of privacy on that. Now, the Oregon Prescription Drug Monitoring Program does have very stringent restrictions and privacy considerations written into it. The state of Oregon sued the DEA, saying that the whole reason we made this system was to keep law enforcement from viewing people's sensitive records. And of course, the ACLU, being, you know, defenders of privacy, jumped in as well. And this is just remarkable to think that they think they have the right to do this. And now their goal, of course, their mantra is that, well, there's all this prescription drug abuse, and we need to be able to get at these records to get out these outlaws, these terrible people that are abusing the prescription drugs. But in order to do that, they want to cast a dragnet so wide that they have access to everybody's records and know what everybody's doing and what everybody's got. And that's what we're seeing from the Hemisphere program, and that's what we're seeing from this parallel construction issue. They all tie together because we've set this demon up. We've set this terrible, destructive thing, drugs. And we've made it so evil, and we've demonized its users, and we've demonized its effects so much that people who I believe are probably well-meaning people that work in the DEA and the people that write these laws and such, right? They probably believe their own bullshit. They probably believe that drugs are the scourge evil that's going to destroy society, and are probably doing all this stuff with the best of intentions. But we've set this system up in such a way, and we've set the demonization up so strongly, that people are willing to just cast aside all common sense notions of privacy, of constitutional liberty, of what the Fourth Amendment really means, of what the Bill of Rights really means. That's the real destructive power of the drug war, is how it's destroyed so many of our cherished notions of what it really means to be an American, of what this country really stands for, of what simple words like privacy really mean. That's the insidious part of this drug war, and that's why we're here every day fighting it here at 420radio.org. And thank God for the marijuana, because if I had to do this job without a little calming influence, I'm afraid my head would explode. Stay tuned, we're going to be right back. We're talking about my head exploding. We're going to talk about school drug testing next.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Smoking man.
Wood Pipe Smoke Shop and Speakeasy is your source for cannabis community gear in southern Wisconsin. Owners Brian and Tammy Wood are located in Kendall, just outside of Madison, and they've got everything for the smoking enthusiast, including a full assortment of pipes, water pipes, hookahs, bubblers, one-hitters, and so much more. They're open noon to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday and can help you with your detoxification therapies as well. Call 608-466-7473 or email woodpipes@yahoo.com for more information. That's 608-466-7473 or email woodpipes@yahoo.com. And as always, go pack go.
If you're an adult who enjoys a good beer, there's a similar product you might want to know about. One without all the calories and serious health problems. Less toxic so it doesn't cause hangovers or overdose deaths, and it's not linked to violence or reckless behavior. Marijuana, less harmful than alcohol, and time to treat it that way. For more information, visit marijuanaissafer.org.
Yeah, you could say I'm self-made. 100%.
If you only knew the power of the dark side.
The heat is on, the gangster's on. I ain't saying I'm a gangster, but leave me alone. I'm self-made and I'm moving to protect my own. I try to keep it positive on this lonely road. First off, I'm talking about my drive to play. Not a lot of people in this world giving it they own today. Giving up everything, but my colors won't ever fade. I'ma keep trudging through the swamps all up on a barefoot raid. Yeah, when I'm in danger, then I hold my speed up high. On the battleground, I'm a soldier, promising why, cause I believe in setting it off and getting the ball rolling. Down real deep, I'm trolling, a little bit of underwater bowling. Yeah, you there wanna disrespect my push? Go ahead, you won't be the first to get my swoosh. These chicks seen a lot of miles, and they gonna see many more. And I'm gonna do what I have to do, I think I said that before, yeah. The heat is on, the gangster's on. I ain't saying I'm a gangster, but leave me alone. I'm self-made and I'm moving to protect my own. I try to keep it positive on this lonely road. The heat is on, the gangster's on. I ain't saying I'm a gangster, but leave me alone. I'm self-made and I'm moving to protect my own. I try to keep it a positive on this lonely road. When I was a Padawan, I've been learning tongue control. Moved up real quick in the rank and the captain let me rock my roll. Why would I aim another way when I get a better run self-made? This is my pot of gold, I'm on a float in my parade. Nah, I talk a fool with the confetti in the crowds. Everything going on behind the music, we getting proud and walking proud. You can hear my chain banging up my pants. Not gonna do no dance for some motherfucker trying to do right on my can. I'm all homegrown, where the hell, but the best in the
I let that run long because I love the dirt ball. That's self-made. He's a member of the Cottonmouth Kings. That's from one of his solo albums, though. His solo albums are awesome. You got to check those out. Dirtball is from Bend, Oregon. We've had him on the show before, and he is a drummer. So if you've been wondering, how he gets such percussive and syncopated rap rhythms going, a lot of that stuff is drum rudiments that he's just translated into rap syllables, which is pretty awesome. Check him out with Cottonmouth Kings, too. It's a great show. All right, so wanted to come back with a story on drug testing here. And USA Today had a headline today that said, "For colleges, does drug testing really prevent drug use?" The answer is no. There is still plenty of drug use going on our college campuses. But they looked at the story of Lynn State Technical College. This was in Missouri, Lynn, Missouri. 2 years ago, they enacted drug testing for all incoming students and returning students, and some returning students. But it was ruled unconstitutional last month. But what they ask here, here's the paragraph from USA Today I wanted to read. While drug testing has long been used in the world of college sports, the practice has found its way into all competitive areas, from cheerleading to chess, and lately in some parochial and private schools, according to Stephen Wallace, Senior Advisor on Policy Research and Education at Students Against Destructive Decisions, or SAD. Oh, SAD. He says, quote, "What seems to be lost in the debate about drug testing is the perspective of those with the most at stake, the students themselves, end quote. According to a report by the U.S. Department of Education, drug testing has little impact for students. 34% of students in high schools with drug testing programs said they would probably still use drugs in the future." And looking back at that study, this was a 2010 study, and it was quite interesting. They found they surveyed students at 36 high schools that got federal grants for drug testing, and half of the schools did drug testing, and the other half didn't. Right? And so they compared the results from these two schools, matched them up for demographics and so on. And they did find some result from drug testing. They did find that fewer of the kids in extracurricular activities reported using drugs when they had drug testing. So kids in the football team, basketball team, chess club, band, drama, cheerleading, whatever, fewer of them reported using drugs compared to schools where the drug testing hadn't been implemented. Now, the first thing I had to ask about this, and here's the actual data were 16.5% of students reported using the drugs in the past month versus 21.9% at the other schools that didn't have the drug testing. So about a 5% difference, 4.5%. But here's what I got to ask, is this is students reported, right? So I'm Johnny Football, on the quarterback on the high school team, right? If I'm at a school that drug tests for football, and I'm asked on a quiz or a survey, did you try any drugs? No matter what they tell me, oh, don't worry, this is private, this is anonymous, nobody will know what your answers are. Bullshit, I'm going to answer that I didn't try any drugs, even if I did. More likely. Then if I'm at the school where they don't drug test for football, and I'm going to lose my quarterback position by being honest. So I've already got to question whether or not there's just less reporting at the schools that have the drug testing for extracurriculars, or whether there's actually less use. But here's the next part. They also say drug testing didn't seem to discourage students from going out for activities. Based on the data they looked at, schools that had drug testing versus schools that didn't have drug testing, kids still went out for extracurriculars. Didn't seem to matter, didn't seem to deter anybody from going out for extracurriculars. But that's where the good news for the drug testers ends. What they found out is there was no spillover effect for kids that weren't trying out for extracurriculars. Okay, so you're drug testing it on the football team or the chess club or the band, but the kids that didn't go out for extracurricular, 36% of those kids said they'd used drugs in the past 30 days. Didn't matter whether or not there was drug testing for extracurriculars or not. Which kind of tells me that the whole carrot and stick approach about, oh, if you do drugs, you're not going to get to be on the football team, isn't really much of a threat to Bobby the stoner hanging out behind the shop class, is it? He probably was never going to go out for the football team anyway, right? And what kind of, in a way, the message this sends, in a sense, is kind of like saying, like, well, we're going to drug test the kids who are important. We're going to drug test the jocks and the nerds and the hot chicks on the cheerleading squad or whatever clique you want to call it. We'll test all them, the important kids. But all you kids that are just kids, not doing anything after school, not doing anything extracurricular with your lives, well, there's no drug testing for you. Not that they don't want it. They do want it. It's just unconstitutional. You can't do it because there's no reasonable suspicion at that point, right? Merely going to school is not reasonable suspicion. And since we force you to go to school, that adds another constitutional layer because then government would be forcing drug testing on everyone. No, they want to do it. The drug testing industry wants to do it. They make no secret about it. And lots of schools have tried it, like this Lynn Technical College. Regardless of whether or not they want to do it or not, what's the resulting message? The resulting message is we drug test the kids who are special. We drug test the good kids. And the rest of you, we don't drug test. And the other piece of data they found, drug testing had no effect on kids' plans to use drugs in the future. In both sets of schools, about 1 in 3 students said they probably or definitely will use drugs in the next year. So, so for all of these stories that we get up, does drug testing really prevent drug use? What is always lost in this debate is that drug use itself is not worth trying to affect. Drug use itself, whether it goes up or down, is meaningless. What is meaningful is drug use harms. What is meaningful is societal harms from drug use. And that's what we need to look at. Now, if there's more college kids smoking weed, is there a big harm from that? Did something bad happen as more college kids smoked weed? Now, as more college kids binge drink, we find all sorts of harm. We find, a death now and then. We find rape now and then. We find assaults quite a bit. We find puke often. All sorts of harms we can come from alcohol. All sorts of harms we can point to from increases in tobacco use. All sorts of harms we can point to from the increases in other drugs as well, cocaine or heroin or anything like that. But when it comes to this, our colleges preventing drug use, when it comes to marijuana, we just have to ask, why should you prevent it? In fact, if marijuana is something that is a valid choice instead of alcohol, maybe it should be encouraged or at least tolerated or at least given the nod that, well, if you're going to do something, at least you're smoking weed. A lot of colleges now are worried about Molly, the MDA. A lot of the reports say that this is like a form of ecstasy. It's not a very accurate way of saying it, but kinda. It's like ecstasy without the amphetamine. Let's put it that way. But Molly is this new big thing, new big drug that everybody. But again, what sort of harms do we see increasing from Molly? And what education are we giving kids on the proper use of these drugs? There's so much about our drug policy that is embedded in the American psyche that it really has nothing to do with drugs per se. It really has to do with Puritanism, puritanical beliefs. It really has to do with the need to punish people for seeking pleasure, or the need to experience pleasure only after a suitable amount of work. Right? You can get a runner's high. That's okay. You went and ran. You got a runner's high. That's okay. You can skydive, right? As long as you put in a lot of training and you follow the safety rules, but you can skydive and get your adrenaline rush that way. You can drink. We'll let you drink because, well, you get punished for it. You get a hangover and eventually, you get punished for it. But a lot of this just has to do with wanting to stop people from having a good time. It really has to do with a cultural notion of what is an acceptable way to get high, drinking, and what is not an acceptable way to get high. And that's really what a lot of this drug war boils down to. So when it comes to these college kids, whether or not we're preventing them from using drugs or stopping them, I don't think the goal should be how many of them are using drugs. The goal should be, are they using them properly? Have they been educated in how to be safe with them? Are they given the tools and resources they need to cope with a drug problem should they develop one? Those are the questions to ask people.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Marijuana and alcohol are the two most popular recreational drugs in America. Marijuana smoking is non-toxic, relatively safe, and has a low risk of dependence. Alcohol drinking is potentially fatal, dangerous to society, and is quite addictive. Marijuana is safer, so why are we driving people to drink? That's the question of the new book, Marijuana is Safer, So Why Are We Driving People to Drink? By Paul Armentano, Mason Tvert, and Steve Fox. Visit Amazon.com or ChelseaGreen.com today to order your copy of Marijuana is Safer, or visit marijuanaissafer.com. Connect with 420radio.org through social media, on Twitter at 420radio.org, and our Facebook page at 420radio.org. Follow us and like us today. You'll be glad you did.
I'm Sub Cool from Team Green Avenger. At TGAgenetics.com, we are working on the leading edge of medical strains. Our strains are rigorously tested for THC, CBD, THCV, and other critical cannabinoids. Know your grow. Check out our genetic diversity at TGAgenetics.com, the home of Jelly Bean, Jack the Ripper, Vortex, and other award-winning cannabis strains.
Welcome back, everybody. Toker Talk Radio on the air. The phone number here is 971-533-7111, and we're just going to wind up here with the latest story that I got posted up on Alternet, and just another bit of evidence here. The British medical journal Open is the latest one to proclaim the war on drugs has failed. You know, when you're fighting a conventional war, it's generally easy to tell when you're winning and losing. I mean, territory gained and lost, troops captured and killed, objectives met and missed. All these things tell the generals how their war campaigns are unfolding. But when you're fighting a war on a noun, like the so-called war on drugs, it's much harder to discern winners and losers. If there's greater use of drugs, the drug war generals and the government tell us we must fight harder. If there's a reduction in drug use, the generals tell us the war is working and we must continue to fight. However, when dispassionate minds review the evidence, it is becoming exceptionally clear that the war on drugs has failed. The latest researchers to reach this conclusion come to us from the British medical journal Open. Researchers from the International Center for Science in Drug Policy looked at 20 years of drug interdiction and eradication data, as well as the operation of illicit drug markets. The lead researcher, Dr. Evan Wood from the University of British Columbia, said simply, quote, "The war on drugs has failed," end quote. Dr. Wood and his colleagues base their opinion on the fact that over 20 years of drug war, drugs are cheaper, more potent, and more available than ever. Since 1990, the researchers noted that the seizures of cannabis have more than quintupled in the United States, but the price of cannabis adjusted for potency and inflation has decreased 86%. The increased potency of cannabis, while often exaggerated by legalization opponents, still has at least doubled in 20 years. The same story unfolds in the data for heroin and cocaine. Prices for both drugs are down by 80%, while heroin purity is up 60% and cocaine purity is up 11% in the United States. In Europe, the price of heroin dropped 74% and cocaine price dropped 51%. Prices declined and purity rose despite ever-increasing seizures of those drugs and eradication of the drug crops globally. Fernando Henrique Cardoso, the former president of Brazil, reacted to the research by explaining that, quote, "Drugs are more harmful to society, individuals, and the taxpayer precisely because they are illegal," end quote. Seeing that the war we fought for over 4 decades has made drugs cheaper, more potent, and as available as ever, should be evidence enough for any thinking person that prohibition does not work. You can catch that up on alternate.org, or if you go to my personal site, radicalruss.com, on the footer at the very bottom of the site, I've got links to all my articles on High Times, Alternate, Huffington Post, Salon, and National Cannabis Coalition. So easy ways to get to those. And real quick on the marijuana price numbers, I know when I read that part of the report, it kind of shocked me because I thought, wait a minute, marijuana is the one drug where the price has actually gone up, where it's more expensive to buy marijuana now, even adjusting for inflation. But the one thing I hadn't considered is adjusting for purity. When they do these figures, right, they have to adjust for how pure is the drug that you're getting now versus how pure was the drug you were getting then, plus what was the inflation, how much has the dollar changed since, right? So with the weed, they're figuring it in price per pure gram. Let me give you a simple math example that kind of explain it. Suppose that back in the day you spent $20 for 5 grams. And that works out, $20 for 5 grams, that'd be $4 a gram, right? But if the weed is 10% THC, you got to divide that $4 by 10%, and then it works out to $40 per pure gram. Now, today, if you went and bought 5 grams for $40, twice the money, right? But if the weed comes in at 25% THC, that ends up being $8 a gram or $32 per pure gram of weed, right? So as the weed's gotten better, yeah, it's gotten more expensive, but you're getting more bang for the buck than you did before. So weed has gotten more potent, not 7 times more potent, not 60 times more potent like the drug warriors say, but it is at least twice as potent on average as it used to be. So as the weed's gotten better, even though it's got more expensive, the price per pure gram has dropped. So in a sense, thanks, drug war. Thanks, drug war, for bringing us cheaper, more pure drugs, I guess. I'm conflicted on this one. That's all the time we got for today. Thanks for staying tuned for Hour 2 Toker Talk Radio. Coming up next, Free Weed with Danny Danko, his episode 43 from the Cannabis Cup. It's going to be a good one. Make sure you check it out. Replays come up at 6 and 7, and then at 8 o'clock tonight, a replay of Red Eye's Reggae Flashback. For everyone here at 420radio.org, thanks for joining us. I'm Radical Russ, and until next time, take care of each other, Tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant